So sometimes in pre-calculus, teachers make you memorize a bunch of particular exact values. I never did that. I always tried to think of, I just memorized the two triangles and use those to work backwards. But sine pi over 3, for example, we were asked to memorize, let's see, I don't even have it memorized, I have to think through it. I think about this special triangle. If it's 60 degrees on one side, then it's 30 on the other side. And if we're talking about the unit circle, it means we have a radius of 1 wherever we draw this triangle. And so that means this has to be the square root of 3 over 2. This has to be 1/2. So when I think about this angle, that is a 60-degree angle. So the opposite divided by the hypotenuse is square root of 3 over 2. Okay, that's just an example of one of the values pre-calculus teachers often ask you to memorize. You could go Google search sheet of exact values for trig values to help you out. But, this one we're dealing with cotangent, and it's negative 240. That's just not a value we typically memorize. So let's make it positive. Let's add a full rotation to it because it will be the same ratio. It's the same terminal side. So negative 240 plus 360 makes 120 degrees. Let's see. So 120 degrees lands here. So we can make a right angle with the x-axis to help us evaluate this. If it's 120 degrees here, that means we've got 60 more degrees to go until we've made a thingamajigger, until we made a semicircle, right? So if this is 60, then this has to be square root of 3 over 2 because the hypotenuse is 1. We're drawing these triangles in the unit circle. So cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. Right? If tangent, there's a lot of definitions getting thrown at you here. So if this is all unfamiliar, you'll want to maybe go back and try to do Khan Academy's practice with pre-calc trig problems. Like you want to evaluate exact value. You want to Google search Khan Academy exact trig values. But tangent is the opposite divided by the adjacent, right? So that means cotangent is going to be the adjacent divided by the opposite because it's just the reciprocal. So the adjacent of our reference angle is 1/2. It's not the opposite, it's not the hypotenuse. The adjacent is 1/2. And then the opposite is square root of 3 over 2. So to finish evaluating that, you've got to flip and multiply the second fraction. So final answer there, the 2's cross cancel. You've got 1 over the square root of 3, which is the same thing as the square root of 3 over square root of 3. Because if you multiply the top and the bottom by square root of 3, the denominator becomes just regular 3. So that's exact form for the answer. So I just committed a sin. Look, this is 1/2, but I should have marked it as negative 1/2. We're going backwards on the x-axis, right? Negative 1, negative 2. So when I drew my triangle, I should have made it that negative 1/2. So that makes negative square root of 3 over 3. Okay. Another way of remembering that, some students use a mnemonic device. All students take calculus. Only sine in its reciprocal cosecant are positive here. So that means cotangent has to be negative. All are positive in the top right quadrant. Only cosine's positive here. Only tangent in its reciprocals are positive there. So I should have had a negative sign there. Okay, so we're given a point. 3/4 is on the x-axis. So here's 1, so 3/4 is somewhere right here. And we don't know the y value, but we're told that point P is in the 4th quadrant, so we know it's somewhere down here. We can at least make a rough sketch. Let's make a right triangle, because we're in the trig unit, probably going to have to do some right triangle stuff here, right? We know that this side is 3/4 because the x-coordinate is 3/4. To get over here, we go 3/4 on the x-axis. We don't know the y value. We do know that it's a point on the unit circle. So if it's a unit circle, the only special thing about the unit circle is it's centered at the origin and it's got a radius of 1. So we actually have enough information now to find out what y is. We know that a squared plus b squared, which is that y value we're trying to find, equals c squared. So 3/4, if you square it, that makes 9/16. Subtract 9/16 from both sides, and you get a number. I think that's right. Then square root both sides, so y is going to be the square root of 7 over 4, because you can square root the top and the bottom. Put a negative sign in front of it though, because we're going down on the y-axis. So y should be negative square root of 7 over 4.